people, this is Ken, Set Us Up, and in our continuing saga to build our NAS, we've come to the topic of backups. And in this video, I want to show how to do two types of backups: a near online backup, which is basically to an attached USB hard drive, and offline backups. And for that, I want to use Amazon Web Services, which is a low-cost alternative to store our files. So with that, let's start. Okay, so we're booting into our NAS, and on this NAS, I'll show you, we have, whoops, I forgot to log in. Let's do that first. There we go. So on this NAS, I have a bunch of hard drives, but I'm only using SDB, and it is in a ZFS or a Z pool called NAS, and I got the whole drive in there. It's just one drive, nothing too fancy. Also, I have a USB stick that's the same size, it's 8 gigabytes, and that is what I'm going to be backing up to. And we can find out that by looking at dev disk by ID. And as you can see at the bottom, our USB hard disk is on SDF. So if we go back to the LS block, we can see SDF has no partitions on it because I just put it in there. And we will be creating some partitions first. But first, going back to our NAS folder, I've created some files. They're a megabyte each, and they have just random data in it. I also created a folder called folder, and in that I have a few more files just to have some data that we can write to our backup. So what we're going to do first is we need to create partitions on our USB stick and create a file system. So let's go to fdisk, and we're putting in the device SDF. And as you can see, it says does not contain a recognized partition table. Fine. So we're going to use N to create a new partition. Primary partition number 1, use the entire drive. We're done. We're going to write, and we're good. Now let's put a file system on it, and it doesn't have to be the same file system, of course. So I think I'll use ext4. So we'll do make fx.ext4/dev/sdb1, since we now have a partition. I'm sorry, not SDB1, SDF1. And it's creating the file system. And we're done. So now let's mount the file system. So let's look at, if we go to our root level, we see we have a folder called MNT, short for mount. In there it's blank. So I'm going to create a folder in there, and we'll call it backup. Okay, and now, as you can see, we have SDF1. So now I'm going to mount device SDF1 to mount/backup. Okay, and so now if we go to mount and we look, we have backup, and we have our blank file system on it. And of course we want this mounted when we boot up, so our next thing would be to edit FS tab, and we're just going to put device SDF1, put our mount point, and call it MNT/backup. The file system is ext4 defaults 00. Right, and we're done. So now, how do we do our backup? Well, the backup command we're going to use is called rsync, and rsync is very handy. It can basically synchronize one folder to another. Any changes, you name it. And we also want to automate this, and we'll have it run at nighttime. And the best way to do that, if we go to Etsy, we're going to use cron. And cron, if you don't know, is a service that will execute scripts at whatever times or dates that you specify. There is a file called Crontab that's in Etsy, and as you can see on my system, there's nothing but comments in it. But if you also look in Etsy, whoops, let's do it like this. Yeah, you see cron.d, you see cron.daily, cron.hourly, cron.monthly. Any scripts you put in the cron.daily, hourly, monthly, weekly, those will be executed daily, hourly, monthly, or weekly. So in this case, I think we will put our script in cron.daily. So let's go to cron.daily. And as you can see, there's already a couple of files in here. There's one called log rotate, which is going to rotate log files. Matter of fact, we can look at it. Pretty simple script. It's executing log rotate, checks exit values, and that's about it. So let's create our file here. So we're going to nano, and what are we going to call a script? We'll say backup. We'll call it backup underscore NAS, and we don't have to give it an extension. Okay, so the first line we're going to tell it what shell to use, and we'll just use sh. And really, there's only one line for this script. We're going to do rsync -av -delete, which the --delete is going to delete off of the backup any files that we delete off the NAS. Now, that's a personal preference. You don't have to specify that. I'm doing it because I want to have an exact mirror. Again, that is entirely up to you, the user. The V option gives us verbose information, and A is archive mode. So anyway, the only thing that's left here is to specify the source, which is going to be NAS, and the target, which is going to be mount/backup. And I'm going to make it create a subfolder in backup called NAS. And that is it. So let's save this. Now we're looking, we see there's our backup NAS, and notice that it's a different color, and that's because it doesn't have an executable bit set. And so we're going to use change mod, and we're going to set 7 to give rewrite execute to root, and then we'll go with 00 for everybody else. And looking at it again, and now we can execute it. And I'm going to go ahead and execute it right now with the /. On the minimal CentOS install, we don't have rsync, so we're going to have to hit the yum install rsync. Okay, now we've got it installed. Let's try that command again. And as you can see, it created a directory called mount-backup NAS, and then it went through all of the files and subfolders. It sent about 11 megabytes, and there's your speed, and we're done. So if we go to our USB drive and look, there's NAS. Go in here. I'm sorry, if we go to NAS and then look, there's our 5 data files in our folder. We go in folder. There's our 5 data files. Now, so let's go back to our source NAS, and let's remove data 5. And now we will run our script again, and we'll just run it from here. It's going to be etsy cron.daily/backup NAS. What did I do wrong? Oh, don't need the dot. There we go. Notice here it says deleting NAS/data5, and nothing else was done, and that's it. So now everything's in sync. We go back to mount/backup/NAS. We look, and we see data5 is gone. And since that's in the cron.daily folder, it will run every night. So the cron.daily and weekly and monthly, for that matter, they run between 3 a.m. and 10 p.m. But really, to be more exact, they were going to run about 3:05 a.m. That is the default settings, and we can look at etc and go to, there's a file, oops, yeah, ANA Crontab. Let's take a look at that. This is the configuration. Shoot, not typing well today. This is the configuration, and you notice here the start hours between 3 and 10 p.m. and cron.daily will run at 3 with a random delay. So it's going to run sometime after 3 a.m. Now, if you want to be more exact as to when it runs, then you go into the cron tab and you can set up an exact time and days if you want it to run just on weekdays or just on weekends. That's up to you. I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you for homework if you would like to get specific. I'm not going to go into the Crontab setup here. So anyway, that is your basic backup to USB. I consider that near backup, and on my NAS system, my personal NAS system, I don't back up everything to my USB stick. I back up just documents that I consider important. And you know, this combined with a mirrored or RAID 5 or RAID 10 for that matter as your main storage should give you pretty good backup coverage. However, one other backup we can have is an offline backup where it's not, the devices are not in your location. And you know, in this case, if there's a fire in my house and I lost the hard drives and my USB stick and I didn't have an offline backup, then I would be in trouble. But there are plenty of different services which can provide offline backups, like I think Carbon Copy, or I believe that's the name of it. There's several others. The names are escaping me. Some of them provide Linux support, some don't. You would have to look. I think they're all expensive, and so there is a cheaper solution, and that is using AWS or Amazon services, and I will do that right here in the next video. I need to get set up for it, and I will see you in 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm on my Windows machine. We have to do some initial setup with Windows, and the first thing is creating the offline storage on Amazon Web Services. So I'm on the Amazon Web Service site, and we'll be creating an account for this demo. But before we do that, I want to show you the product we're actually going to use. So I'm going to go to Products and go down to Storage. And right here is the Amazon S3 Glacier. It's a very low-cost archival storage. And we'll click on that. And it gives us, how many nines is that? It's enough nines. Durability. The cost is as little as $0.004 per gigabyte per month, which if you multiply it out, a terabyte ends up being about $4 a month, which is pretty reasonable. It's pretty hard to beat that with other backup providers. You can as far as retrieving data off, if you do expedited, which costs more, it takes 1 to 5 minutes. If you do standard, it takes 3 to 5 hours. So this is definitely not meant for if you need the data back immediately. So if you do think you need your data back immediately, you might want to look at something else. But in this case, for me, this is what I use for my NAS device, and I think it works pretty well. So I was going to show you the pricing details real quick. Of course, there's a free tier usage, free usage. It's 10 gigabytes a month. You get that for free. More than likely, you're going to have more than 10 gigabytes you need to back up, but that is free. Now, the pricing does change depending on your region, but I think for the U.S. it's the same. I'm in Northern Virginia region because that's what's closest to me. And storage is the 0.004 per gigabyte per month. Now, retrieval pricing for standard is a penny per gigabyte. So if I needed to retrieve an entire terabyte, you're looking at $10. Not too bad. Then if you go down, there's a few more other costs involved. When you do an upload, it's 5 cents per 1,000, and I'll get into that when I show you the program that we're going to use to do the uploads. You can configure how many upload requests it makes, and this won't hurt us. And then you also have some, as you can see here, any data we transfer into our Glacier is free. And then data that we transfer out is going to cost, well, if it's 1 gigabyte a month, it's free. The next 10 terabytes per month is going to be 9 cents per gigabyte. So that's going to be factored in if we ever have to retrieve data. And then they have select pricing, which is more expensive, but you have quicker access to your data. Like I said, for my purposes, the standard pricing will work fine. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to create a free account and go back to the home page and find the free account button, which for some reason, oh, there it is. All right. Okay, we'll give it an email address. I want to call this the, let's see, NAS backup at setusup.info. Let me give it a good password. And a name, we'll just call this demo. Of course, the name you can change later. Continue, and yes, we have to put in our profile. In this case, we don't need that. I'm going to set it to personal, and I'm not sure what's required, so I'm just going to see if it will. Okay, so it wants a phone number, so I'll give it a phone number. It wants an address, so I'll give it an address. And you can't put fake stuff in here because it's going to need it for billing. And of course, I'm going to gray all, excuse me, blur all this out. All right, and now I need to put in a credit card. So let me go retrieve that. I shall be right back. Okay, I put in my credit card information and also verified using it through text message. So we get to this page and it wants a support plan. So we're going to go with the free. And we're in. So let's sign into the console. So we need to put in our email address that we just set up. And let's see, NAS backup at. Let's put in our password. Close that. And we are in the management console, and it put us in Ohio, and I want to change that to Virginia. And now we can start adding services. First thing that we're going to add, and if we go into services, there's a ton of stuff. I'm not going to go into all of this stuff, but what we're looking for is under storage, and it's called S3 Glacier. And we need to create a vault. Now this, you can actually do this through the utility that we're going to download here in a little bit, but I'm going to use a GUI. So let's create, I'm going to put it in North Virginia. This is my vault name. Excuse me, you can put any name you want, so I'm going to put NAS backup. And as you can see from the description, it stores data in archives. So when you come in, and you can't actually see the files like you normally would if you just did an ls command in the management console. It's actually, the files are stored in archives, and as you can say, as it says, you can upload a single file as an archive, or you can put multiple files into an archive, which is exactly what the program that we're going to use does. A single archive can be as large as 40 terabytes, and the vault contains your archives. So we're going to, of course, put our name in. We'll go to the next step. It asks if you want to have notifications. That's up to you. I'm going to go with no. And is this correct? Yes. Submit. Okay. So now we have our vault. Let's click on the, if we go to settings, I'll show you this. Retrieval policies, like this is just for retrieving back, not for uploading. So you can set how you want to do this. You want to use the free tier only, which I believe was what, a gigabyte a month. And that will keep it at free, and you won't go over that. So you can come back in here and change this. So maybe setting it to free just in case, and then if for some reason you need to get more than a gigabyte, you can change it to no limit or max retrieval rate. And then provision capacity, this is for expedited retrievals, which we're not going to do. So I'm going to hit save here, set it to free, and we're good. So we'll click on our vault, and as you can see, we have this in Northern Virginia when we created it. Inventory, it updates the inventory like once a day or maybe a little bit more often, and of course we just created it, so we don't have anything in it. And the ARN, this is going to be part of what we use in our script so that it knows how to get to this vault. Of course, we turned off notifications. We aren't going to have any permissions. We can lock the vault, which we're not going to do, and you can set tags. That's if you had a ton of these things and you needed to organize. Not an issue for us. Now, the last thing we do need to do is we got to create a user that has access to this thing. So let's go to, we're going to go under my account name over here and go to my security credentials. And it says, it gives you a little warning here. This provides unlimited access. You can, best practice is to create other users that have limited permissions and use that. I'm not worried about that right now. So I'm just going to continue on, and we're going to go to users. Now I am going to create a user, and we can give it whatever name. I'm going to call it NAS Backup to keep with the theme here. And it is not going to have console access. It is going to have programmatic access. So we're going to go to permissions, and I am going to, I don't have any groups, so I'm going to attach an existing policy, and I want it to be for Glacier. So let's start here, and as you can see, we have two groups. We have Glacier full access and read-only access. Well, I want full access, so I'm going to check that, and that's all we need for this user. It only needs access to Glacier. Next, tag, don't need that. So we're going to review this username is NAS backup. It's going to have programmatic access with a key, and it has full access to the Glacier. Let's create the user. Done. So as you can see, it has the access key here, and then it has a secret access key here in this case, which I'm not going to show you, even though I'm clicking the show button. And that's how we're going to configure our script to get to the Glacier that we've set up. And that's really it for this console. So now let's turn our attention to the program. And you can the program is located on GitHub, and it is by this user right here, Victor Efimov, and it's called mt-aws-glacier. And this is a code. Here's his documentation. These are the commands. We're going to do sync, obviously, which will sync whatever folders that we have on our computer up to the Glacier. You can also do restore. You can upload individual files, get inventory, and other commands. The main the main command we're going to feature is sync. But first, we need to do an install. I would recommend reading through this entire document. One nice thing about this is it's multi-threaded and multi-part. It's able to do things pretty quickly. And here's your requirements. You can install with a package manager if you're using Ubuntu or Debian. We're CentOS, so we have to do more of a manual installation, though it's not too difficult at all. Here's some warnings. Beware the retrieval fee. And that's definitely the Glacier pricing, which I showed you before, is something you really need to be aware of. The retrieval fee is what can get the cost up. So you probably want to read some more documentation on Glacier in general. Glacier clients store metadata in formats that are incompatible with other clients. So if you back up with this program, you need to use this program. Other software, you won't be able to get the file names. If you use a low part size option, you pay a bit more because Amazon charges for each upload request, which I showed you in the pricing. And here we go to come down to usage. We have to create a little config file that's going to have the keys and the secrets. We specify the region. We're going to specify to use HTTPS. And then we've already created a vault. So basically this command right here, we're going to sync and give it concurrency values and a journal log. The journal log is extremely important. That keeps track of what files are in what archive on the AWS. If you lose this file, you're in trouble. So this file would definitely be a candidate to be backed up to your near online backup, or you could put it on the NAS device itself if it's got RAID level redundancy. And that's about it. He goes into explaining what the journal is and what you can do with it, some more information about the different commands, and that's about it. And limitations, it only supports file names that can be mapped to a valid character sequence. File names that have a carriage return are not supported. Length of file names, the current length is about 700 ASCII characters. The file modification time should be within this year range. Also, I believe that it will not back up files with 0 bytes. And that's about it. Glacier permissions, which we've got full access, so that won't be a problem. So let's go ahead and get this thing installed on our NAS computer, and we'll quickly back up our data, and I'll show you how that works. So let's go down to the manual installation. We have to do prerequisites. There's a section in here for CentOS 6, and this works just fine for CentOS 7. So let's bring up PuTTY. And connect to our NAS. Now I'm going to log in as root simply to avoid having to do a bunch of sudo commands, but I do not advise that for a production system. Now, first command we'll do here, let me show you ls block. We have from our previous, we have a ZFS install on our SDB, and we also have our near online on SDF 1. So let's do a yum install of perl-core and perl-CGI. Get the spelling right. And I'm going to do -y, so it will automatically accept yes for me. Okay, next we're going to do yum group install development tools, which is going to install a bunch of tools for software development, as the name implies. Let's do -y again. Okay, last we'll do a yum -y install of openssl development, because we're going to be using HTTPS. Okay, so now we're going to do some installs of Perl modules, and we're going to use cpan, which is the package manager for Perl. But first we need to configure it, so let's just run cpan by itself. And it's asking for a configuration. Do we want to do this automatically? We'll hit enter for yes. It's asking for installing modules, configuring a directory. I'm just going to hit enter. And it wants to know if we can choose some mirror sites, and it means connecting to the internet. So assuming you have internet access, we'll hit yes here and let it do its thing. Okay, it's now asking if it wants to put the path in to our root profile. I'm going to say yes, and we're done. So you probably didn't notice, since I had Time Machine turned on, it uploaded a new version of cpan. So I'm going to quit and log off. So that means we got to connect back with PuTTY again. I'll log in as root again. So now we need to install 3 different prerequisites. So it's just install. First one is JSON :XS and uppercase matters. So we'll let it download and install. Okay. Second one is LWP UserAgent. This one will take a few minutes. Okay, so that's finished. So now we got the last one, which is going to be install LWP protocol HTTPS. Now it's asking if it can test, and you have to have network connectivity. So we do. We'll say yes. Okay, we're done with our prerequisites. Now, to do the actual install of the script, there's 3 ways we can do it. You can use the command git clone. You can just download and unzip it, or we can install it with cpan, which is what we are going to do. So we'll say install app MtAws. Okay, finally finished. That took a little bit of chunk of time. Now we can quit out of cpan. And if we look under our root folder, we see a folder called perl-5. And here we have bin, and there is mtglacier. So we can move this perl-5 and the subfolders and files to wherever we want. I'm going to leave it here. And just to make sure everything's running, let's run mtglacier. And it ran. Of course, we've got to give a command. So the next thing we have to do is create a configuration file. And we'll, on the website, let's scroll down to usage. So the config file can be located anywhere. That doesn't have to be in the same folder, but that is where I want to create mine. So let's go to nano, and let's call it, we'll follow the example here, glacier.cfg. Okay, so now we need to put in our information. So we're looking at the template for a config file. We need a key equals and a secret equals. We'll give a region, which in this case it is going to be US East 1, and protocol is going to be HTTPS. Now for the key and the secret, we go back to the management console. Here's our key, and our secret is shown under add user. So, well, let's get out of add user and just go to the users list. There's NAS backup. I'll click on that, and we get our credentials here. Like you can see here, we have the access key, but it doesn't have the secret. So it looks like I'm going to have to create another one. And yeah, it says this is the only time the access key can be viewed or downloaded. So I'm going to grab this key and put it into our config file. Sorry, I should have realized that to begin with. And then go back and click on show to get the secret access key. We'll copy that and paste that into our config file, and and I'm going to delete this first one that I made, so it can't be used. Okay, so now we have our glacier.config file, and now we can set up our initial sync. So under the example here, it says we create a vault with it. We've already done that, and we're going to choose a file for the journal, and was an odd email, and we will do the sync here using this command. So I'm going to paste it. I'm going to grab this command. We're going to paste it in here, and let's go back and change it. So we're syncing our directory that we're going to sync is going to be NAS. The vault is called NAS backup, and our journal log. Now, our journal log is very important, and we need to keep that somewhere important. So I'm going to leave it here, and we can go back and specify in our backup scripts to back up this file. And concurrency, we'll leave that at 3. So let's see how this runs. No errors so far, and it's pushing the data. Looks like it's done. Okay, done. So how do we know that our data is there. Well, we'll have to, let's go and look at our journal file. We see there's journal.log, and it's just a text file, so let's take a look at it. Let's get this back out. Here you go. So you can see created, and this is the archive, and the size. Now it's one, looks like it was 1 megabyte. Yeah, here's the file name, data 4, 2, 1, and then here's the folder names. So if we go back and look at the website, go to the management console, we're going to go to our SV Glacier, and we see the NAS backup. You notice that the inventory has not been updated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, and I'm going to wait for this update to happen whenever it does, so I can show you the screen, how it looks. So we'll do that now. Okay, I'm back, and as we can see, the inventory has happened. It happened at 3:16 p.m. and we created this archive at 11 p.m. the previous night, so it took that much time. As we can see, it's 9.3 megabytes with 9 archives as of the last inventory. And we'll click and get some details, and you can see basically the same information. And that's really all you can see. You can't see files or anything like that from this interface. So now what we can do is I'm going to show you how to do the restore. So let's go to our NAS, and I'm going to delete the data files here. So let's do rm data star. Yes, 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 and yes. I'll leave the folder just so it's there. So how do we get those back? Well, switching back to the website and going to the Glacier documentation, we're going to initiate this restore job. And so I'm going to grab this command. Let's go to putty. We'll put it in the putty. Let's look at it. So we're issuing the restore command. We're specifying our config, which is correct. The directory is going to be NAS. The vault is NAS backup. Our journal is journal log. Maximum number of files 10. In this case, we just did 4, but I think we will leave that. It should be fine. So, whoops. Okay, so let's go to perl-5, and then now we can issue our command. Okay, it's now going through and trying to figure out, yes, so it figured out what files need to be retrieved. You can see these 4 files right here, and it sent the command, the request into Amazon to retrieve. Now, for standard retrieval, this can take a few hours. So I will pause again this video, and later we will do the restore command again to see if the files are available, and we will download them. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so we're back. It's been a few hours, and we're going to try to see if we can get our files. And as you can see here, the restore-completed command is what we're going to use. So I'm going to copy that and go to our putty, put it in, and of course I need to change the directory we're going to, which is going to be to NAS, and I think everything else is, oh yeah, the vault, sorry. So this should be NAS backup. Everything is good, so let's hit enter. Retrieve job list. Okay, done. So let's see if we go to NAS. Nope. Okay, no files yet. So we will have to wait a little longer and see if they get back. So I will be back shortly. Okay, we've waited a little bit more time, and let's try it again. There we go. Looks like it downloaded the files, and if we go to NAS, there's our files back. So there is the AWS Glacier storage in action. Again, this is a very low cost solution to having an offline storage. Of course, there are other solutions out there, and if you have a favorite and think it's better than Glacier, talk about it in the comments. Let us know what you use and how much it costs. Really, cost is the big factor with Glacier for me. I pay routinely every month about $3, and I'm backing up all changes every night. So anyway, that's backup for the NAS. I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, please put it in the comments. I've got all of the links and commands in the notes for the show, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please click like and subscribe and ring the bell. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one. Thanks.